Welcome to the Sharon Fitzmaurice podcast, where we celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. And we're grateful to be partnered with Into the West Adventures, which have some amazing trips coming up if you want to check them out. They have a Camino trip to Valencia to Santiago in June, the 6th to the 13th, and a Celtic Camino trip 2nd to the 7th of July at Corunna to Santiago, or check out their Aaron Moore and Tory Island April 3-night weekend island adventure on intothewestadventures.com. And now we'll move on to our next guest. So Trevor O'Donoghue is my guest this week, and Trevor, from and still living in Killarney in County Kerry, felt like his life was like, and I love the way you put this, was like a countdown clock
hmm
when you were 8 years of age. Trevor, you're very welcome to share your story and your work with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Sharon. I'm a bit nervous, but we'll call it excited for the day that it is.
Yeah, and I think we need to be a little bit of both when we're doing something new. And again, what you're doing is sharing a little bit about your own personal story
Mhm,
and how it has brought you to where you are now, which
mhm,
I love, Trevor, because we get to see the best versions of everybody on
mhm,
LinkedIn and Instagram. And I'm all about seeing where we came from, our own struggles and challenges, and why we do the work we do and why we love it. And that's really what this podcast is all about. So I'm delighted that we connected, and I'm really excited for you to share with the listeners today. So we're going
Thank
to
you.
go back, Trevor, as we have to go back. And saying that or seeing that statement, at 8 years of age, you felt like life was a countdown clock. Can you
Mhm.
explain to our listeners why it felt like that at 8 years of age?
Absolutely. So I have cystic fibrosis. I suppose that is the main thing. And I grew up in a house that was grieving my sister who had also passed from CF. So I suppose I grew up very aware that I had the same condition that she had. And I suppose understanding on some level that she had passed away from it even when I was young. And I suppose if you know like about grief and trauma, I suppose I soaked up an awful lot of the grief and trauma that was around me. And I was just a very anxious little kid. Um, that didn't help having to go to the doctors every 3 months, which is great to have the facilities like, but it was a very scary time, thinking that like, oh my God, am I going now? Am I going to get really bad news? Is it going to be, you know, something? Will I have to go to hospital? So it was tough. Like it was a lot of there was lots of states of anxiety would be happening and builds up to them. And then I did have an incident with a doctor, which I shared with you in the bio, where I was just listening to him chatting to my mother, and he said, "There is no reason Trevor couldn't be around for another 10 years, Teresa." And then he turned to me and he kind of says, "You know, Trevor, any mistakes you make now will affect you later in your life." Which I'm sure he had positive intentions behind, but for an 8 or 9 year old, it probably wasn't the greatest thing to be hearing. And yeah, so like it was terrifying. Like I suppose life really did feel like that it was a countdown to something, but I think that's everyone with CF at the time. I think that's what it was. It was like a life sentence. Like I've heard it said before that like parents were raising their kids to bury them. That's what it was. And I suppose times have changed. Um, Medications have improved. There's more information now. It's funny, like, because there's no, I suppose, over the last few years, like, it's massive psychologists in the team too. Like, there is psychotherapists, which is, I believe, a huge part of health and
Mm,
well-being. Um, so it's great to see how things have changed over the years. But
mm,
yeah, if it made me anything, it made me a very anxious, probably a little bit angry as well. Um, I would have held a lot of shame, embarrassed of what I had, didn't want people knowing. But then I was probably guilty as well that I was really healthy with it,
mm.
which was
Yeah, it's
a
interesting that
cocktail.
Yeah, interesting that you say that, Trevor, because again, that's what goes through my mind. First of all, only being a few months old when your sister Karen passed away, not knowing her, just having memories that were shared with you about your sister, and having a family that was grieving because there was a big crowd of you, no more than my own family. There was,
There was,
yeah,
including Karen, there was six of us.
yeah, that was a big family as well. So, how did you kind of, even for your parents, because I lost a sister as well years ago, but even for your
Sorry to hear that.
parents, that they had to raise a family, deal with their own grief, and also have another child that
Mhm.
had CF, and
Mhm.
imagine the fear that they were going through as well.
Mhm. It's literally impossible to imagine. But if one
Mm,
thing I suppose, like my mother says that like they had no choice but to get on with things.
yeah.
And I suppose that is a very much an Irish mentality anyway
Mm,
that's drilled into us. May not be the healthiest one all the time, but
yeah.
they had a little baby, so they had no choice but to get on with it. And
Mm,
my sister did tell me one time that it was actually like sure I was probably a light in the house too at a
yeah.
bad time. So it was like yeah,
Yeah.
it was nice to have a small little giggly baby, I suppose, around when times were tough.
Absolutely, because babies, no matter what, bring joy into
This is
a
it.
family, don't they? And it is a light. So explain to somebody that doesn't understand about cystic fibrosis that's listening and how it would affect and how it did affect you or how it does affect you and how
Mhm.
you're managing it. So they have a better understanding of what we're talking about, Trevor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a progressive genetic disease that like I'm gonna make a hames of trying to explain what this is now because it's a very complicated thing. Like I suppose it presents in the lungs mainly, but it also affects the other organs, like build up a sticky mucus that over time will like cause scarring and damage like in the lungs and will start affecting other organs also. It's on a certain level it's a salt imbalance, like on a cellular level.
Mm,
Um, that's what the new drugs have changed, where it's, I suppose, some people couldn't produce the salt to pass through the cell, and some of the drugs will help you produce the salt and then open the cell to pass it through. So it's a complicated one. I'm not even sure I fully understand it
yeah.
myself, but it's, yeah, like chest infections, belly problems, like you have to take digestive enzymes every time you eat, preventative, antibiotics. Like, thankfully, actually, last year, like I said, I am pretty healthy, which I'm very grateful for. Last year, I actually was taking off all my inhaled medication that I've been taking since I was a baby because,
Wow.
yeah, it's just something that they're saying that I don't actually need it. Like I'm a very active person. Like I'm very active. Like I'm regimented with my self-care. I
Mm,
do lots of exercise. I'm out in nature all the time. That includes with the camera. Like I'm big into taking alternate supplements. I do lots of alternate therapies.
mm,
So I do lots of stuff to maintain my own one. And then you have the advancements in the drugs as well. These new genetic drugs that have come out that are just incredible. They're giving people a whole new lease of life.
mm. Isn't it amazing too? I suppose if you look back to your sister Karen, how many years would she be past now?
Same age as me, so 40 this year.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine if there was that available for her at the time, that
This
it
is
might,
it. And
yeah, it's hard.
my specific gene is like it's the Celtic gene, but it's very rare, so I have it doubled. So the
Mm,
medication works really well for me because it's the same gene doubled, and she would have the same as that, so the drug would be massively effective for her as well if she was
yeah,
around the crater.
I know. But again, I suppose we're learning all the time, aren't we? And particularly, I love to hear that, that when you can come off all the drugs and you're living a very active life, you're supporting your own health and well-being as well, Trevor. But that may be not the case for everybody else. I suppose everyone is individual and
This is
unique.
it.
Yeah, so we come to you again and we talk about because of that a doctor, which may have meant well, but putting
Mhm.
the what did they say? Frighten the living daylights out, yeah, as they sing in
100%.
Ireland.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Good way to
and
put it.
you're going forward into school, were you thinking that, first of all, you said shame, and being
Mm.
anxious and fearful and everything. Were you ever really scared?
All the time. Like when you
Yeah.
look back and you see how it's shaped you, you're always afraid of everything to a certain extent. And I suppose you have your justifications then that you'll make up a story in your head to represent why you don't have to do stuff. But I was very risk averse, I suppose,
Mm,
in my younger teenage years. And yeah, so I was like afraid to do. I would not do anything that was outside of my comfort zone.
mm,
Like, yeah, I found it hard to make friends. I made lots of friends later in life. But yeah, like it's just a thing. You have this major thing in your head that you're dealing with that I
mm.
suppose it is kind of consuming
Yeah.
you at times. And it's overwhelming. But then you have to go into a school environment that, in fairness, they were probably very understanding. Like I would have missed school. I'm not sure if it was health related. I think it was more anxiety related, to be honest. But they were very understanding, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I just thought like that school wasn't for me. I wasn't a place I could focus in. Like I was mentioned to you, like that
Mm,
these days they'd probably diagnose it as probably both forms of ADHD.
yeah.
But yeah, I just thought school wasn't for me. I was more into computers, gadgets. And it's
Mm,
funny, I always remember playing with cameras at
yeah.
anytime we had a family occasion, where they'd put the cameras on the table back in the day.
Yeah.
So I'd be
Yeah.
like peeling the cameras off the table. So I think there was some kind of calling there all the time, but definitely luck that I ended up in it too.
Yeah. And it's, interesting when we say that because school academics are not for everybody as well. And that creative side of children sometimes is not explored until maybe later on for them in their lives, and then sometimes they feel like, oh, well, I can't do that now because I'm older, but
Yes.
that for you was wonderful because you discovered photography and your
Hmm.
cousin was a
Hmm.
photographer and he took you on as an apprenticeship. I just think that's lovely.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Tell us about that journey starting out with your cousin.
Yeah, like I finished school, like I was interested in nothing, only partying. Like, yeah, nothing, no interest in like going to college, no interest in. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I was
Mm.
working cleaning windows with my brother, but he needed help. He started his own business, and funnily enough, a couple of years beforehand, before that I had carried the bags from first wedding too. So I was in there right at the ground floor with him, even when I was really young.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he brought me in, he gave me a camera, he taught me learn how to use it. Um, yeah, it was like went on to learn about photography. Like I became like obsessed with it. But obsessed is a bad word. Like I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved learning about it. But again, very theory based. Like I wasn't very forthright of going out doing stuff. Like I was very
Mm.
afraid to go do jobs, and I'd be editing in the background, or I'd be, learning all different bits about the camera. But yeah, I did. I loved it, and from there, once I started to learn how to use the camera, I think the camera actually taught me how to learn
Mm.
to a certain extent. I don't even think I understood how to learn. Like I did my leaving cert or whatever, but
Mm.
it wasn't, I definitely wasn't massively academic. My camera taught me how to learn. And I think
Amazing.
that anything that challenges you, I presume, like photography or anything you learn in life, I think once you learn how to learn once,
Yeah.
that yeah, it's easy to adapt it after that. But I think photography taught me how to learn, taught me how to focus.
Mm.
It was actually amazing. Like it was I was doing mindful photography to a certain extent before I knew what mindful photography was, because I was taking my camera out into nature, I was going all these cool places, and then I wanted to bring it up mountains because I thought the idea would be really cool. So the intention was always the camera, but to get up the mountain with the camera, I first had to get up the mountain by myself,
Mm.
and get fit enough to do it. So it became less about getting the camera to places and more about my health and well-being, to be honest, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and even when you're saying it, it's lovely, because I always get a feel or a sense when people are talking. I'm very visual, and I can nearly picture you going up that mountain, and saying you want to get the top and get the cool photo and everything. But it is that old saying, it's not really about the destination, it's the journey and how you feel
100%.
about yourself, isn't it? And what you're learning about yourself. And I'm not anyway a whiz with the camera. But even when you're looking through the lens, my husband has a good camera, we'll say that. And if I'm looking through it, it's really focused, isn't it? And you're
Mhm.
very observant of every detail. And it's,
Massively.
I always say, obviously, because I work with mindfulness as well, I always say that when you are mindful, it's just like looking through the lens of a camera. You're focused in on something and everything else is blurred around you because you're just focused on that in that moment. And even at that, sometimes you'll notice things that you would never have seen before.
Hmm.
So imagine capturing those moments then. And, what I loved as well, you said photography was not just about cameras, it was about art, psychology, light, composition, and storytelling. Oh, when I saw that now, Trevor, I was absolutely thrilled because I think every single picture tells a story, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. And I suppose when you're not aware of it, you're still like every picture you take, you're expressing an emotion as well. Like, I mean, you're like, we're emotionally driven beings. So it's like your emotion that draws you to the picture. It's your emotion that brings you to a certain direction to take a picture. It's how you're feeling in those moments really drive you.
Yes.
And I suppose anyone that like does photography, like it can be very heady, it can be very settings and orientated. But yeah, it's you are still driven by a feeling, and when you see a photograph and you like it, it's because it's creating a certain feeling for you. So
Mm,
it's an amazing learning. Everything is really a self-reflection. Everything that comes out
yes.
of your camera is just a self-reflection of who you are and how you're feeling in that
Yeah.
moment. So
I
it's like
love
it
that.
grounds you. It grounds
Mm,
you to the present, whether
mm.
you realize it or not.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I do love that. And that's why I said there is art in everything that we find ugly or beautiful within the world, isn't it? It's how we see it and perceive it ourselves through our own eyes and how we feel about ourselves or the world, isn't it, really, Trevor?
100%.
But let's go back to your journeying. And I love this that photography was taking you out of your comfort zone. You were creating adventures without even realizing it, and you were experiencing new challenges because you wanted to get the photograph, but you were pushing yourself to those limits, that you maybe had not pursued before or had not
Mhm.
looked to. When did you start kind of being more aware that you were coming out of that safe little anxious zone of yours and that you were expressing yourself or finding a sense of yourself and who you are and who you're maybe going to become, Trevor?
I presume it was like, I suppose you're not massively aware at the time, but it's happening gradually.
Mm,
Is what I would say. Definitely gradually over time, and the more I was working with my cousin, the more responsibilities he gave me, the more I was inclined. Like I was going to weddings with him, I was mingling with lots of people, I was doing my own stuff. So slowly but surely, I got more confident, I would say, for a person that had absolutely no confidence. So
mm,
it definitely taught me how to understand myself. And then, like I said, psychology comes on board because you have to learn the dynamics of groups and how to make them comfortable in front of the camera. And I think a lot of that is down to just being authentically yourself.
mhm,
So you have to learn how to quench the panic in yourself when you're out doing these things. So you have to learn how to quench the panic in yourself so you can be there and do a good job for the people. Like,
mm,
'cause you're going in and you're sharing these, like, they're the biggest days of their life. Sometimes they're full of
mm,
stress, but they're always like an amazing day full of emotion. Like, and you're
mm,
right, you're right there with them too. So I think slowly but surely, like it brought me out of my comfort zone and
mm,
to a place where I was confident enough to eventually start my own business, as I said.
mm. Well done. I think it's just a beautiful story, all of it, and I know we only have a short time of the podcast to talk
Mhm.
about it. But again, I always say to people, I hope you write down these stories and these rememberings and journal them because someday it might turn into a beautiful book, or maybe you could nearly have a gallery of images of your
Mhm.
journey from start to finish. Wouldn't that be amazing,
That is
Trevor?
actually a really, really cool idea, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, journaling, I've definitely done a lot of journaling about it over the years. It's like when I suppose when you asked me for a bio that time, like I had so many pieces written everywhere over the years that it was like, let's try and put them together and see can I make sense of my journey in a short paragraph to tell
Yeah,
people about me.
yeah, and it was lovely, and that's why I said it's very hard, and I always say that to guests if I ask them, and maybe they haven't done a podcast, before Trevor, and they'll say, "Oh Jesus, I'm no use at writing out my bio," and I said, "Well, just tell people who you are, where you've come from, what you're doing now, and what you feel you're giving to others," and they still find it hard to do at times, but you did beautifully because you gave me a great idea into where you came from, what you found, your highs and lows in life that everybody faces. And I said, not everybody is going to have, a health diagnosis in their
Mhm,
lives, but they will still struggle with anxiety and fear, not being very academic, not knowing where they're going to go
mhm,
in life. And I love that you found photography. And through the photography, you found your purpose or a
mhm,
mission in life, but it helped you to reconnect with yourself and maybe that person that wasn't allowed to be fully adventurous growing up
mhm,
because of his diagnosis,
mhm,
because of, the grief in the family. So that always gives me this beautiful light that to say, well, just because I've been through all of that stuff doesn't mean that I can't go out and explore new ideas or something to bring my creativity to life because we're all very creative, really, aren't we, Trevor?
Massively. I really believe that. I think it's inside everyone, and I think that people are doing it every day, unknowns to themselves. We
Mm,
have these devices in our pockets now. We communicate through pictures. It's what we put on social media. We're telling stories. We're all
mm,
storytellers. We're all creatives. We're like the whole saying that the picture paints a thousand words, and it really does. Like, but
yeah.
it's a language we all speak now. Everyone speaks the language of photography,
Mm,
and it's literally how the world is communicating, and it crosses borders. It works in all languages. A picture taken in Killarney means the same thing to a person in Australia.
yeah.
It's a powerful art that everyone is using, and that
Mm.
everyone is using to, I suppose, r express who they are.
Yeah. And just even that, because I was saying that my eldest moved to Australia, and I know people that have been away from Ireland, from home, for
Yeah,
anyone
yeah,
that's from Ireland, and they see a picture, especially people that went maybe in the 40s, 50s, and 60s or whatever, and they're, haven't been home to Ireland a while, and they see a photograph of Killarney, and they go, "Oh, I remembered there when
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
grandmother," or whatever it is. And there is that beautiful emotional connection that they have where even maybe their great great grandparents have come from some part of Ireland and they see a photograph that maybe you or somebody else that is very good at taking photographs
Yeah,
has
yeah.
captured the essence of it. And it connects them not just to the place, but to the memories of their families or their ancestors as well. So there's story all along in that, isn't there?
100%. And again, like there was a big picture of my sister in our sitting room, and this is something I never shared in my thing with you. But there was a big sister of her. But like I grew up so afraid of that picture,
Oh,
and now like I want to create pictures that
mm,
people look at every day and get comfort from, like that picture that was hanging on the wall of her. So obviously, I'm not afraid of that picture anymore. Like it hangs in
yeah,
all houses and stuff. So it is
yeah, wow.
such a
And
powerful
what was
picture.
it? What was the fear of? What were you actually, if you go back to the memory, what were you afraid of the sister, or the picture of your sister that had passed?
Because it represented death, like CF
Mm,
represented death. So it's
mm.
just that fear, that initial monkey on your back that follows you around.
Isn't it amazing too? Isn't it really when you think back and what a
That's a
picture?
picture.
Yeah, amazing. Oh my
Like,
God, Trevor,
I'm
that's
afraid to
great.
look at it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
But I'm sure it's like anything in life. It's how we look at something when we're going through a really hard time. And then when we get support and help, and how that picture, our perception of that picture can actually change, like everything in life. Now, one of the things you said as well, which again, I'm going to do loads of things that you said because they'll jump out at me and
yeah, yeah.
I'll
Please do.
underline them and I'll write them and I'll
Do.
write them
Yeah, yeah,
again. But you wrote, photography isn't just my job, it's my therapy. I
yeah.
loved that, Trevor.
Yeah, and it's just me being truthful, to be honest. Like, it is my therapy, like I spoke about earlier. It's what inspires me, what gives me purpose, what keeps me grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets me out in nature, it helps me fall in love with nature.
Yeah.
It's my constant self-reflection tool.
Mm,
Like, I take pictures, and part of our mindful photography thing is where we we take pictures, and then we also have journaling aspects to it too.
mm,
So it's nice to have a full expression of myself through my photography, like. And it's
mm,
like I said, I don't think that that's just me. It's just I think everyone is doing it. But
mm,
photography has done so much for me over the years that, like, I really want to help others get what I got out of it. And that is
mm.
not just camera settings. There
Yeah.
is much more to it than actual than that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is very much my therapy. Like, if I'm not feeling well, like if I'm having a crap day, like I'm down the
Mm.
park, I'm walking around and you're looking at light. Like, I mean, it's just it's healing, like.
Absolutely. What is and I suppose there's many things, but what's one of the greatest things that you have changed about your own life through learning photography or becoming more aware of yourself through photography?
That's a great question. That is a great question. What's the one big thing that has changed in me? I think it has completely changed me to a certain extent. It has completely changed me. And it's given me a whole new lease of life. Um, like I said, direction and purpose. But what's the one thing? I suppose it's just inspiration. It's a
Mm,
very inspiring thing to be doing, whether you're doing it as a hobby for yourself and the rewarding thing of getting nice pictures, or the rewarding aspect of, like, taking pictures for these couples on their wedding days, like,
mm,
and getting the feedback from them after, like, did you really captured how they felt on the day, and
mm,
do you know what I mean? So I suppose it's rewarding in a way that I can use it to express myself and also help other people with it.
mm.
Like, it's what has changed most about me? Probably everything.
Yeah. Isn't that, even when you think about it, Trevor, isn't it? That's what I said. Sometimes to actually stop and just reflect on yourself and your life. And, even when you had to write the bio for me, again, I suppose probably the awareness of having to think about that fear, where you came from in school, all of those things to where you are now. And did you feel quite proud that you had achieved a lot to date?
Definitely. Oh yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. When you see the journey you've gone on, and, like,
Mm,
everyone has the same journey, not the same, everyone has their own journey. But when you
yeah,
see the journey you've gone on, and you see that you are,
yeah.
like, blossoming and living, like,
Mm,
well past the 18-year sell by date. I'm
yeah.
at 40. I have, like, over 100% lung function. Yeah, I climbed a mountain this morning before I'm going on a podcast. Like, life is
Yeah.
amazing. The truth,
Yes.
though,
Yeah. But
life is
yeah,
for living.
and again, I suppose it's through, that's what I said, photography kind of brought you back to life, or fully into life, I should say. But that it could have been the other way if you
Mhm.
just believed that your life was going to be short-lived. And as they say here, you lived under that. You lived
Mhm.
under, the diagnosis and said, well, sure, what's the point in doing anything? Sure, I'm going to go anyway. And
Yeah.
as I just say to people, we're all going to go anyway, I said, but none
Mhm.
of us know exactly when. Some of us might have been given, a
Mhm.
shorter lifespan. But again, through you inspiring yourself, to
Hmm.
create moments where you're going to embrace being alive.
Yes.
And as you're doing that, your physical body starts to respond to it. Your mental well-being starts going, geez, I actually can climb a mountain and I'm fine.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I get a great
yeah.
picture while I'm there.
Yeah, and that's the truth of life. Like I suppose the a lot of obstacles we put up are obstacles that may not be real obstacles, you know what I mean? They're mentally created obstacles for ourselves, and yeah, it's important to work through them and to become who you are, I suppose, to a certain extent. And I suppose beliefs as well. I suppose if I'd really deep down believed that that was my destiny, maybe it would have happened.
Mm.
But I suppose, and I did think it, but I never fully believed it.
There's the
Just
difference.
that understanding that your thoughts are not real. Like if you were listening to this fella all the time,
Oh,
he'd be sending you in some weird directions. So yeah, it's a big
absolutely.
bad world beyond thinking.
Yeah, but what you said is really important because a thought is only a thought, but when we put the feeling or the belief around it and we connect that emotion to it, then it becomes our behavior, doesn't it? And
Hmm.
then our experience. So
A
as you said
reality.
it, you might have thought about it, but you didn't believe that or feel it was you, that
Yeah.
there was much more to you, Trevor, which is a really profound thing, that I would also say to people is, well, do you believe that about yourself?
Hmm.
Because if
Hmm.
you do, then it is going to be your reality, but how about looking at it a different way? Whether you believe it or not, maybe just looking at it a different way and see how you feel about doing it a different way. And if that feeling
100%.
feels good, maybe you could start to believe that.
And that's what photography does. It literally shifts your perspective. It
Mm,
is a tool to completely shift your perspective because when you start taking pictures of things and like you might believe certain things about something and like it that even aspect of taking pictures completely change your perspective and stuff.
mm,
Like we've exercises for it too where you'll actually like do perspective exercises and stuff, but it's yeah, no, it's amazing. It's a tool
mm.
for shifting perspective.
I love that. Absolutely. So you are living obviously with Ciara, your partner, and the lovely dog who you said
Mhm.
is the boss now, probably in the house, like all our
Yeah.
dogs and cats in our houses. But you met Ciara. When did you meet Ciara?
I knew Ciara when we were growing up. Not growing up, like not young, but like secondary school on. But in 2008, um, we started seeing each other. Like
Uh,
we've a lot of mutual friends, and I would have been friends with her before it, and
mm.
never like nothing ever really, I suppose, materialized until yeah that time. Then just out of nowhere, it's just we seemed to click.
Lovely. And did you feel like you had to say to Ciara, or did she know that you had cystic fibrosis or that you had health issues, as they would say?
She did she knew I had cystic fibrosis and like she has a few health struggles herself, so I suppose we can relate to each other on
Good.
yeah on that level as well. Yeah, but like growing up in other relationships and stuff, like it is definitely something you'd I would have hidden away from.
Mm,
Eventually if you're with someone for a bit of time, all right, it's a topic you kind of have to broach with people, but it's a yeah a strange one. But
yeah.
yeah, no, thankfully Kira already knew, and it wasn't any big surprise to her.
No.
And it was
So you and Ciara, because you launched a group together, which is lovely. Because so we're in a relationship, and I always say we're not bound by the hip, but that
Mhm,
we have to be able to work with each other in the relationship. But then when you're working together, doing any kind of a project together,
mhm,
sometimes it can be difficult. But the
mhm,
two of you launched a group called Pictures of Life
mhm.
together. How was that, and where did the idea come from, Trevor?
Well, I suppose me and Kira had launched like it was a thing called Mindography, it was called. So before the pandemic, we had started running workshops, which was basically our photography for positive mental health like workshops in Killarney. So we were running them in a hotel in Killarney, and we had just started like piquing some interest. Like we were doing day events, and we'd
Mm,
have a nice lunch, and we go down the park, taking pictures. So we launched that, and it was going well, and we had already started building a little bit of a community. And then the dreaded C word hit. I'm not sure how open you are to talk about that word, so I never, I just call it the C word when I'm talking to people. Like,
Yes. Well, in case anybody doesn't know what he's talking about, it was the time that we were put into lockdown because of COVID.
yes, yeah, and it was major lockdown.
Yeah.
Like, we were in major lockdown with both of our health and stuff.
Mm,
We got some like updates from doctors earlier than some people might have, so
mm,
we kind of knew that we were looking at a bit of time indoors, and that work was not going to be a done thing. So I still wanted to, I suppose, still be creative. So
mm,
we created the Pictures of Life Facebook page, and I
mhm.
started running picture challenges. They were mindful photography picture challenges, whether people realized that's what they were doing or not. But it was, yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were there. We started running picture challenges for people, and it just exploded. To be honest, like it was, yeah, it was incredible. Like we had thousands of members doing picture challenges every day. Like we were getting national coverage. Facebook were contacting me all the time, and there was a lady contacting me. It was amazing. Like we were, in fairness, it helped a lot of people. There was a lot of articles actually came out in papers, which were cool to read because it was stories of what people were going through, but it was through the picture challenge. Families were sharing, families were doing it as a team, going around exploring in nature to find their pictures for the day. Everyone was sharing and everyone was connecting and, being kind to each other, which is a huge thing at a stressful time. And it was just a really positive place, like with people with good intentions, all there together with the same intentions and goals. It was amazing. There was like I think we at one stage we had over 6,000 members, and there was 50 plus countries. It was incredible, and we ran them all the way through COVID. I ran my workshop a few times, but we were pretty much doing the picture challenges because people seem to be getting a lot of benefits from them. Because I suppose like everyone's mental health might have been dipping a little
Yeah.
bit at that time, so it was nice to have that focus for the day. We
Mm,
call them focuses and a picture a day challenges, but they're just little meditations. So
mm,
you get your focus for the day, which say it might be could be something simple as green, or it could be something more complicated as letting go.
mm,
That is your meditation for the day. So you're thinking about it in your day, seeing when it comes up, taking a picture, sharing it with the community. And these days we've added in some journaling to go along with it too, along with it. But yeah, no, it was incredible. Like, I mean, the people in the community were amazing. They completely understood it. And it was, yeah, it was an incredible time.
Wow, that is just fabulous. It really is, because it was to keep your focus on your creativity and connecting to people. Because again, with health issues, there was a lot of people that couldn't even go on their walks down the road or
Mhm.
meet anybody. But to do that and have an online community where other people could connect and feel connected,
Mhm.
supported, and share their beautiful pictures, which are art, or a scene from, the way some people were living in cities and they couldn't see the forests or the sea or
Yes.
whatever it was, but somebody could share it from, a coastal area. And they're like, oh, that's so beautiful to see the sea today, or, the clouds in the sky, or your forest or your farmyard. They were getting to
100%.
experience other people's views.
They were, and you know what? I think there was a lot of people shared personal stories as well, like of struggles they were going through. And I suppose like it makes other people realize, and like we all realize that we're not the only ones with struggles. Like the whole world was struggling at that time. And it's
Yes.
okay to say I'm having a bit of a struggle today, I'm having a hard day. I'm
Yeah.
throwing a bit. That's grand. But it's nice to have the focus to still get your picture. And so it was really nice. Like it was a beautiful space.
Just sounds so beautiful. It really does, Trevor. As I said, I'm very visual. I could nearly imagine people doing things like that and just the joy it could bring. But it must have brought you and Ciara immense joy as well to see that you had created such a wonderful community.
Massive, absolutely massive. It's very rewarding. Like
Yeah.
obviously you did both sides of the thing, like wherever it was very locked down, but everyone was also experiencing all this joy. So it was amazing. It was a very rewarding time.
Mm,
Along with being a difficult time, it was a very rewarding time. And
yeah.
I suppose at the start, like when I saw 2,000 people in the community, even though I did what gone out with the intention to build a community before COVID started. Like when I saw 2,000 people in the community, I was straight on the phone to my therapist, like, "Oh my God, I'm panicking. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
panicking. This is too
yeah.
much for me to be handling." Like, and again, it's just more stuff to work through.
Yeah. What was the fear or the apprehension about, oh my God, this is too much for me?
Wordiness, confidence.
Yeah,
Am I good enough to do this?
yeah.
Like, am I able to hold a space for all these people, even though it's only a simple Facebook group? Like, because
Mm,
there was a big backlash as well from some people. Like, one guy put up a naked picture one day and we took it down, and then he was saying that he was going to speak to his solicitor because we were excluding him. So there was like an awful lot of drama with that in the background that people didn't see as well. So it was
mm,
taking a lot of time. And other things like people were stealing each other's pictures from different days and sharing them. Like it was like, it's like it was just crazy, crazy stuff. And I suppose I was, yeah, doing like, you love to just say, "Oh, I'm able for everything." But, I was a bit panicky about it all, the confrontation of it all. But it was great learning as well for me.
mm. And
And
again, I suppose it's everything in life, Trevor, isn't it? That you get over so many hurdles and you get through them. And again, with your health issue and everything, and you're doing so well, COVID comes along. Okay, we can't do anything about that, so we'll create this community. And now we still face challenges, even though we're not really beside that person, but we are because we're connected. And online has
yeah.
shown us that and again, it's the negative and the positive side of it, isn't it? That
Mm,
there can be so much community and connection and support and togetherness, but there can
mm,
also be the people that take advantage or the trolls or whatever it is. And it's
100%.
facing them without letting your own mental well-being or emotional well-being fall
Mm,
down the drain again because we all need support no matter what we're doing in our lives, and you and Ciara had done this together, but it was
mm.
lovely. You could ring up your therapist still and say, what
Yeah,
do I
yeah.
do?
Yeah, yeah. Panic stations, quick, give you an appointment. But it's funny, she laughs at me like so. It's yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
can laugh at myself too. I just be honest about it, like, cause
yeah,
yeah, yeah, this is a thing that happened. Like, it's people will see that thousands of people in the community doing great, but yeah, yeah, that took a bit of
mm,
growth to get the confidence enough to
yeah.
create this too. So,
Yeah, amazing. Because everything is a learning opportunity, isn't it,
mhm.
Trevor, for us?
Everything in
And
life.
that's how we learn the most about ourselves. I'm
Mm,
constantly echoing this. I do say, people say, oh, she's always saying that. But I do, because I never
mhm,
take it for granted. And I always say, I'm always learning something more about myself. I'll face a challenge like you will, and
mhm.
I'll go, okay, what did I learn about myself? Well, the first thing is you got through it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. This is it. Yeah,
And then when the next hard thing comes, remember you got through all
mm,
the other hard things. So
100%. It's
step
that
by step.
It's that stoic mindset, isn't it? Like when you think about it, like what's actually the worst that could happen? That you'd
Mm,
have this amazing community.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. But obviously you'd valid
Yeah.
fears and stuff that I had to work through,
Yes.
like as
Yeah.
well, yeah, with it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Great learning. So that group then became now focus on happiness, which again,
Hmm.
there's your focus and again on the happiness. So this is not that I have a problem with happiness. I love
Hmm.
happiness, Trevor. But I
Hmm.
suppose people are saying, I just want to be happy. And I would say, well, what creates happiness for you?
Hmm.
Because we're not going around happy all the time, but we
Yeah.
have moments of happiness and
Hmm.
moments of joy. We have moments of fear and sadness and
Hmm.
everything else. But people think, I just want to be happy.
Hmm.
So nothing is right until they get to that moment of happiness. So
Hmm.
how would you explain happiness in your life or in your group?
So I suppose the number one thing is like focus on happiness was a mindset that I had growing up that got me through the hard times. So that was what I'd always self-reflect and say, like, hold on, no, is this for me? No, and obviously that was fear loaded
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger. But so that's why it's called that. I suppose it's probably it's probably actually taking away from what the community is because I think people fear the idea of focusing on happiness to a certain extent. Like it's an off-putting name. So yeah, it is. But what happiness? Like happiness is a fleeting feeling, like, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something that comes and goes. Um, but it's something that you can also create.
Mm,
Like by changing your perspective, by being a bit more creative, by literally acknowledging bad things every now and then
mm,
can actually bring you happiness. There's
yeah.
lots of things that bring people happiness, and
Mm,
having the space where you set aside time to work towards your happiness and
mm,
having an area to go to, that's what the community is about.
mm.
Not about being happy all the time. Like we have Happy Wednesday, but it's not,
Yeah,
it doesn't mean come and be happy on Wednesday. No, it's like every Wednesday doesn't have to be happy, but I bet you
yeah.
can find something in your Wednesday that brings you genuine joy.
Yeah. And that's why and it's not because I wasn't dissing the name, but I wanted to see it how you felt about it, because
Mhm.
again, it is, what people expect or perceive happiness to be. And you were so absolutely right that sometimes when we're down in the doldrums and somebody like that in your group says, well, focus on one thing that makes you happy just around you. And it could be your dog or my cat or the
Mhm.
bird sitting on the wall outside that keeps looking in at me. It can be the daffodils coming up and something that just makes you smile and for a moment makes you
Mhm.
forget that there's other things going on. And it is a moment just that stops. And that's what mindfulness is about, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's just accepting that there are things that I'm struggling with, but there's also moments of joy and happiness and beauty all around me as well.
And they're all acceptable. That's the whole thing of
Yes.
focus on happiness.
Yeah.
It's for coming, being yourself. As you said, if like people having hard days, it's okay
Mm.
to have a place to connect in when you're having a hard day. I think
Yes.
social media has just become the highlight reel of people's lives, where they're sharing the picture perfect moments and the perfect lives, which is just like I don't want
Yeah.
to curse like, but it's just false. Like it's not.
Yeah. It's
I want
BS.
Yeah, it's BS. It is like shit. Let's just say it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You can beat me out after, but
Yeah.
but it's the truth. Like, and it's like to have a space where you can come to and genuinely be yourself. We all have struggles. That's okay. You can still come in here the day you're struggling. You can come in and say, "I'm having a shit day," but look, I took this, and that's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. We accept everyone as they are.
Yeah.
But it's a place for people that I
Yeah.
suppose want to actively look after their mental health is what it's for.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it's finding tools and creative ways to help support yourself, isn't it, really,
100%.
Trevor? And that's what photography is, because like I didn't have a mobile phone till I was 28, and after that, I didn't even have to clue how to use it. But I used to look at everyone else having great phones and the pictures they used to take, and that's the one thing I wanted the mobile phone for, was so I would have a good camera on it. And
Mhm.
somebody said, well, don't you want the mobile phone for other things? And I said, oh, I couldn't care less, really. I just want the nice camera because, like you, I love walking in nature and I like hiking and all that stuff. But sometimes you just come across something and it takes your breath away. And I said, I'm just going to
Mhm.
take a photograph of it. It's usually for myself.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
you share it, nobody else can understand that emotion or feeling you were having
Mhm.
in that moment. But they'll say, oh, that's a lovely view. But you'll
Mhm.
say, oh, but I felt when I was
Yes.
there, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So again, it is the story behind it, isn't it?
But you can create the same feelings in other people with pictures too. You'll be
Yeah.
surprised when you have a feeling towards a picture, you'll be surprised how many people have a similar feeling towards a picture. Pictures are they're pretty
Mm.
impactful, like they really are. And getting
Yeah.
on to the point of mobile phones and cameras and
Mm.
stuff, like it's like just it's a statement I make all the time, like, but they're kind of shown to have like them and social media are shown to have
Mm.
adverse effects on people's mental health and well-being, but they're
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
No.
Really is our responsibility, and like our intentions need to change around them, like because they're amazing tools to be used in ways that can like improve our mental
Mm.
well-being, that can help us to like you have a camera in your pocket now, you have a
Yeah.
mindfulness tool in your pocket. Like some people might think it's a distraction, but it doesn't have to be. It can
Mm.
be used intentionally, and we
Mm.
all have them. I think something crazy is that like 50% of the world now have a mobile phone. That might have gone up. I had the figures in a recent blog post that I shared actually. 50% of people in the world walk around with a device in their pocket that can take a picture, and they're connected to social media.
I know. It is amazing, really, isn't it? And I heard another fact the other day, because that's where I connected with you, Trevor, was on LinkedIn. But there's 8 billion people in the world, and 1 billion of them are on LinkedIn.
Wow. It's Crazy,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Absolutely. It's only when you hear kind of statistics like that and you kind of stop and you think there's one, I'm connected or could be, connected to 1 billion people
Yeah.
globally.
Yeah, that's amazing though. Honest to God, and you're like, what are you, one person removed, did they say, from
Yes,
yeah, a billion people, is it, or
absolutely.
something, or a million people?
Yeah. But
That's
that's what I mean. So it's like everything in life, isn't it? We're trying to connect with like-minded people and learn from people that we may not get to meet in person, even if we're in the same country like we are. But and that's where I say the advantages to social media and how you use it. So again, for us, it is to connect on a professional level and learn about each other so that we can share those experiences and tools that you offer or I offer to the people that we're connected with. So you're having that ripple effect, aren't you, out in the world?
100%.
Yeah. So for me, again, with social media, and I'm always saying this as well. I know I'm like a broken record, but it's showing up authentically as yourself and sharing your story like you're doing today. And I know you might have been a bit nervous about coming on the podcast, but you've been done brilliantly and you've shared authentically. And if more of us show up to do that,
Hmm.
and you can still be professional by
Hmm.
sharing your human story, but
Of course you
behind
can.
every professional is the human.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I
But
think again, this picture perfect Insta reels, I think that's going to change, Trevor, somehow. I think it's going to change, and more people are going to show up authentically and say,
we hope so.
this is what got me here, and this is me
Mhm.
on the bad days,
Yes.
here's me on the
Yeah,
good day, whatever
yeah.
it is, yeah.
And there is no good and bad days. There's just days and we
There's
exist in them.
just days, absolutely. So I know in your group, Focus on Happiness, and you said that you have the picture challenges, the mindful check-ins, workshops. It's a supportive community, and you have online and offline meetings, which I think is so valuable to people. And people can join it freely on Facebook, Focus on Happiness, or they can join
Actually,
up
it's its
for
own website now. We
it
have our
has,
own
yeah,
website and community now. Yeah.
and they can
It's gone from
join,
Facebook and it's free.
yeah. Brilliant. And there is a membership as well if they want to join, then is there to go
Yeah, it's just
into?
if people like the idea of what we do and support what we do, we have some other health and well-being tools in there. Like we've a habit tracker, we've an area for inspiration and motivation. We have the picture challenges in the free community run 4 times a year. For the supporters, they get access to one every month.
Wow,
It's like
brilliant.
yeah, we have some people like, well, I won't say some people, but like it's great, like if people that have dips in their mental health or that
Mm,
need a bit of extra focus in their day,
mm,
and want that little bit of mindful time to reconnect with themselves and having the
yeah,
intention to do it throughout the week. It's yeah, it's ideal
yeah.
for those type of people.
So we could say it's for everybody, really. It's not just people
Yeah,
that have an interest in photography because we're all photographers with these mobile
this is
phones, as you
this
said
is
in
what I
our,
think. Yeah, and
yeah.
everyone has
And
that creativity in them.
yeah, and it may help them because, again, I know often when I'm talking to people about mindfulness, and they said, I find it very hard to be present and just focus on where I am. I want to distract myself. But if we have a camera or phone in our hand and we focus in on
Mhm.
something, and again, I just say, how do I feel in that moment? Maybe it'll be a tool to help you to come back to
Mhm.
yourself and to honor how you're feeling. Because I think it's brilliant because we all need support. And I say that constantly to everybody, no matter where you are in your life, what you've come through or achieved, that every single one of us needs support. And when we can do that for ourselves, then we are able to offer somebody else a helping hand as well, Trevor. Isn't it true?
And the great, yeah, and that helping hand can be as simple as saying, "Have a good day."
And that's for sure. Well, Trevor, it's absolutely flew by. I can't believe it. You've been a pleasure to have on the
You too. Thank
podcast
you.
today and an amazing story. And if you could look back to the young Trevor now at 8 years of age, and even to the doctor that said that to you, what would you say to him?
Oh, this is funny because I wear it every day. I wouldn't say it to him, but this is what I would say to young Trevor.
Yeah,
I wear it around my neck every day.
you'll have to read it. I can't read it, but I can see there's some inscription on it.
Life is not about how you die, it's about how you live.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
So it's
Oh, that is
actually
amazing.
it's a quote from the 5 feet apart. It's the cystic fibrosis film.
Wow. 5 feet apart. I'll have to write
Yeah,
that down as well. Wow.
actually.
See, that's it. Here's me, like the professional podcast. When you say something, I have to write it down. I have to write everything down because I never want to forget something that's going to stick out in my head and
But
that I mightn't remember all the bits when I say, what was that again he said?
yeah, but you have that level of comfort to do it, like where I'm like
Yes.
I'm stiff. I have like a notepad and a piece of paper here too and stuff like. But I'm like writing down. No, no, no. I'm lucky to be on the screen now and doing it.
Oh, no, I think you're amazing, Trevor. And this is your first
Thank you.
podcast.
I did one with a friend before during COVID at the height of everything.
Yeah.
Like it was a very different time, and I was a very different person going through different stuff. So
Yeah.
it's the first one I think since we're in a place where we want to really provide this space and get it out to as many people as we can because we believe it's a beneficial place where people can exist in and find their tribe.
Oh my God, definitely. Yeah. So the website and community is focusonhappiness.ie. You're on Instagram, focusonhappiness.ie, Facebook, /FOHAP, FOHAP /. I'll be putting all the links up anyway, Trevor, under the show notes,
Thank
and
you
it'll
so
be
much.
available across Spotify, Apple, all the platforms, and on YouTube as well, where people globally can contact you because this is open to everyone all over the
Mhm.
world, which is
Very much
amazing.
so.
Where would you like to see it going, Trevor, in the future? Have you any vision or idea or hope where it would like to go?
Where would I like to go with it? Not really. I don't like want to make it something that like I'm chasing in fear to try and get to a number of people.
Yeah.
I just believe that there's a resource there that people can benefit from. That people can like I love that word find your tribe because I just think it's very true. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? The people can exist in and I believe in it and I think that once that's my intention behind it, it'll be whatever it becomes.
And that's exactly the right way to feel about it because when we're showing up authentically and we're letting things grow organically for us and develop, because sometimes when we're too focused on one thing, we're missing out on all the opportunities and the learning experiences either side of us. And
This is
especially when you're looking through your camera, you don't want to miss that beautiful shot if you're too
it.
focused on what's the tree ahead of you and miss out on the
Yeah,
flower on the left
yeah,
of
yeah,
you.
100%. Yeah, yeah. To try and have the awareness.
It's absolutely that's what it is. Well, Trevor O'Donoghue, thank you so much. I'm delighted that we've
Thank you.
connected and that you were able to share so openly with myself and all my listeners today. And I can only wish you every success with Focus on Happiness. It sounds like an amazing community and such a creative and supportive space. So delighted for you and for Ciara, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh,
It was
you're
great to be on.
welcome.
Like it was, yeah, I felt very comfortable once I got past the initial press go.
Yeah, that's me every podcast.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. But great chatting.
And you too, Trevor. Thank you so
Mind
much.
yourself.
You too. So thank you to all my listeners, and I hope that you did enjoy that wonderful conversation with Trevor. As I said, please go and check him out. Focusonhappiness.ie. All of the links will be in the show notes. And until next time, take care of you.